Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Michael. You probably know that by now, unless you're new. And this is our Sagittarius pre-full moon webinar. Getting ourselves warmed up. The actual time of the full moon, to see if I remember it accurately, it's tomorrow night, GMT, Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Time, at 10:44 and 12 seconds. I guess we're using a pretty accurate ephemeris here. And we will have, my wife Tuya and I, she'll be leading a meditation, which I've sent you, and that starts at 9 o'clock p.m. tomorrow night, GMT, and the link for it should be in the chat box. Yeah, it's there, so you can get that link, or just copy that if you'd like to join us. And as you know, the actual full moon meditations that include the exact moment, they have lots of images and music, and it's a more elaborate process. Well, Sagittarius, we're heading into the lower interlude now, and it's kind of interesting what an upward tending sign this is, how it aims for the heavens and the higher planes of intuition and of inspiration. It has, of course, its lower side as well, and it's undergone a revolution over many millions of years, from the half animal, half man, the centaur, who is deeply immersed in materiality, to the rider on the horse, carrying his bow, to the rider on the white horse, which is sort of the image of the Kalki avatar, the coming Christ in a way. And eventually, as we see here on this banner, all that's left is the upward pointing arrow and a bit of the bow. And that is all done through projecting the mind into the transcendental realms. Sagittarius is one of the intuitive signs, we are told, and it aims to transcend the mind, although it has much to do with the abstract mind. It has much to do with the ability in general to project into the triad. Sagittarius is loosing arrows or shells or bullets or something, that travel through space at a rapid rate, and it aims for the for the planetary, expansive, non-local area of the spiritual triad, the impersonal realm, where we will focus once we are full members of the hierarchy at the 4th or 5th degree. So when we're building the Antikarana and we reach the 3rd stage of the process, which is called projection, you can think pretty well of firing your arrow from the soul-infused lower mind into toward the monastic permanent atom, or the triadal realms. I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. The rulers are mostly represented here. The exoteric ruler Jupiter, the esoteric ruler, which is the Earth, so our Earth is deeply involved with this sign. And then you see a little bit of Mars. I must have cut this off somehow, but the red of Mars is the hierarchical ruler, which is dealing with the reorientation of the lunar lords. We have the other lords which have come before the solar lord, and they have dominion and rule over us for a long time. But then the time comes when they are reoriented, and in time they can become true devas and earn their wings, so to speak, but not without the upward aspiration of Mars. When you look at this Jafra illustration, he's done such a good job. I mean, there are many esoteric factors here, not all we see largely the centaur, and he seems to be holding the skin of the goat. In a way, it could be the skin of the wolf. The lower type of goat is slain on the way to becoming a unicorn. So we give up our personal ambition and we see from a much higher perspective. And we are able to slay the illusions which hold us materially bound to the pursuits of the lower ego. Sagittarius can begin to see things in such a large perspective that the lower ego fades out on the way to initiation. Looks like Zeus is up there lighting the arrow of aspiration, or so that it truly becomes possible to evoke the returning arrow of intuition. So there's a lot of lightning going on here, a lot of speeding of intuitive thought back and forth. The lightning of thought Master Morya speaks about, and I'm sure he means the lightning of intuitive thought. The truth seeker, where do you find truth anyway? Well, we're not going to find so much truth in the lower 18 subplanes, although many Sagittarians do work there. They do a lot of body work, and they attempt to bring the soul and spirit into the form. But where do we find the real truth? And here we have sort of the hermit with his lamp in the broad daylight, looking for an honest man. Such an irony. One of the Greek philosophers, was it Diogenes? I'm not sure. He carried a lantern in the light of day, and he said, "Why are you carrying a lantern in the light of day? It's only for night." He says, "Well, I'm looking for an honest man." So supreme irony there. And Sagittarius, the truth seeker, eventually finds his way to a complete love of truth and honesty. It isn't always that way in the very beginning. They can tell a pretty good fish story if they have to. So exaggeration, all that kind of magnification, which is not truth, is the early Sagittarian is given to. So anyway, eventually we make our way through projection, through the projection of our own lower nature across the Antikarana bridge into the higher triad, where a much greater vision of what is true it dawns upon our consciousness, and it gives us true perspective. I mean, there are many of the lower Sagittarians that are so tremendously one-pointed because it's the sixth ray, which is very predominant in this sign, but also the fifth ray and fourth ray are there. But the sixth ray is there, so it becomes fanatically one-pointed. But eventually, when those he grasped the vision in his arms and found it naught, and sometimes he reached the person whom he loved and found, instead of vision, beauty, another person like himself. So eventually that very narrow tunnel focus expands out into this Jupiterian type of perspective. In any case, it can rule the first initiation, the second initiation, and it points its way towards the third initiation. And actually, it's much involved in the sixth initiation, when we start treading the way of higher evolution, outward bound, so to speak, on one of the paths that lead to certain planets in our solar system, wherein we undergo training for the cosmic path we will tread, and then on to the cosmic astral plane and toward the cosmic mental plane in some cases. And all of that is very much pursuing the ever-elusive onward-lying goal. Sagittarius rules there as well. Now, Francis has some very useful images here. I'll read what he has to say. Here we see the archer. He's aiming at the light on the mountaintop, which is the true supernal light of initiation in Capricorn. But meanwhile, he has to banish the Stymphalian birds, and he does this in a pretty interesting way involving sound. But he cannot have Kamamanus, desire-tinged mind, get in the way of his vision. Otherwise his vision will be clouded. So let's see what Francis Donald has to say about this. Let's begin by looking at the first image. He's got two. The birds of Stymphalus. From his arduously gained elevated vantage point on the path of return, a Sagittarian disciple looks out across the long way that lies ahead of him. He has to travel quickly, he's galloping on his horse or he's moving with the arrow in some way. He sees the waters of his own astral domain ruffled by the thought forms that stream from the dark realm of his unconscious, crowding his inner landscape with the chaos and cross purposes of self-focused attention. Self-centeredness is one of the problems here involved with the Sagittarian individual, and especially, I suppose, when the fourth ray is ruling. As he struggles for self-mastery, he intuitively raises his bow and arrow and aims the arrow of his intent towards his goal. Now, this is an important point. Silence fills him. An opening forms, and by the power of and this is DK's quote, the flame that gleams beyond the mind, he breaks through the disabling influences of Kama Manas. So the Sagittarius can have much to do with Kama Manas, but also with the higher mind. Francis talks about the geometry. It gives us the radius of the circle, and it can be seen by the drawn bow and arrow, the radius of the circle and the drawn bow and arrow. And this gives rise to two opposed perspectives. From the point in the center, the Sagittarian aspirant releases the arrow of his intent towards the bounds of his own ring past naught. We're always breaking our ring past naught, transcending it, going beyond it. When he retrieves that arrow, he discovers that he is now standing at the center of a new and expanded circle. And yet, standing on the periphery of his circle, the disciple focuses his intent on the center point. When, after great struggle, he reaches that goal, he finds himself on the periphery of an even greater circle, and so on it goes. I see the goal, I reach that goal, and still I see another. So what we thought was reaching the center of our objective turns out, after all, to be a kind of periphery of a new and greater and more expansive circle. So Francis has a lot of Sagittarius in his chart, so he's qualified to speak here. Paradoxically, he says both these perspectives are often active at the same time. But when the disciple becomes increasingly decentralized, hard to do sometimes, and is thus more identified with the goal than with himself, losing sight of the little ego, the second scenario begins to dominate. In either case, the radius must be traversed. Thus, it is the most fundamental symbol we have for the path of return. So many people on the sixth ray and Sagittarius, they race towards the outer periphery, thinking they are finding God or the divine or whatever, only to discover that they've gone away from their own center. Then they have to return to the center, and this is building the Antakarana, and they project their arrow towards a higher center, which the spiritual triad represents. The great hint given to Heracles just before the start of his Sagittarian labor was, the flame that gleams beyond the mind reveals direction sure. This flame is the intuition, the language of the idea. The word idea, as used occultly, connotes a lot more than how the term is commonly used. The Tibetan tells us that ideas which are to be found on the Buddhic plane, and I would add, starting from the Buddhic plane and even beyond that point, on all the higher planes, these beings, incorporeal beings, which give form and substance to the shapeless mass of matter. These are ideas, and they're found on all these higher planes. The Buddhic plane is certainly the beginning for us. The Tibetan tells us that ideas which are to be found on the Buddhic plane are used by the hierarchy to galvanize the minds of humankind and thus direct us towards an ever greater experience of life. The whole idea, thought, whatever, of being gripped by an idea shows us the truth of the old statement that nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And that has to do with the divine plan and its Sagittarian projections into the consciousness of humanity. To be truly gripped by a true idea may condition your entire life. So this context, Francis has another illustration here. He calls it the genesis of an idea. Let's take a look at it. We see the four planes here with the Buddhic plane on top, I think, and the idea really comes from that higher realm, but it's showing itself as the thought form in the center, and all the different bands have to do with subplanes of the various planes. Obviously, the planes are interpenetrating, and how are we going to illustrate that? Very, very difficult. So we're looking here at the planes as if they are strata, and here is the aura of the man working within the different planes. This image depicts the planes that make up the human quaternary, the mental, astral, and physical planes, with the light of the Buddhic realm informing the whole. And that's really what we want to achieve. We who are students of occultism and becoming disciples, we want to add to our ever-growing manasic apprehension the true intuition until we achieve what's called buddhi manas, and that means that when we think, our thought process will be informed by the true, by ideas, instead of just be circulating ruminations which are full of illusion. So superimposed on these horizontal strata is the domain, shown here as an ovoid, wherein the experience of the human being takes place. And when Leadbeater, let's say, as a psychic who had these images drawn, shows us the image of the man, so often the ovoid is shown. Sometimes the ovoid is, an ovoid, and sometimes some causal bodies and auras are more spherical than they are in the form of an ovoid. So that why they should be that way or the other, we'll find out as we go along. Above this ovoid is the realm of the idea on its own plane. Shown here is a large sphere whose lowest part is just visible at the top of the piece. And notice that it is only his realm reflected, that it is only this realm's reflected light that penetrates the crown of the ovoid. I suppose the word should be this. I suppose it should be. Okay, so we look here and we see there is a larger sphere, larger spheres above, and something of it has descended into the middle as the thought form that we are creating. At the center of the human ovoid is a much smaller sphere that represents an apprehended idea, or as DK tells us, the idea revealed becomes then an ideal, that's more along the sixth ray line, to the attentive mind, and eventually something to be desired and materialized. So, as it has been said, we go from idea to ideal to idol. And of course, Sagittarius is one of those signs which really can, when properly oriented, touch the realm of ideas and bring them down so they become ideals which inspire people so that they have sufficient of the materializing desire quality to actually make these ideas, ideals into idols or things, we might say. The thought form making capacity of the mind then comes into play. The mind stuff becomes actuated by the energy of the idea, vitalized by the recognition of the soul, and the idea then takes its first real step towards embodiment. So we can see how important the sign Sagittarius would be in the white magical process, which is all about the descent from soul realms of an idea into manifestation. So in this illustration, he says you can trace the idea's genesis as it passes from the Buddhic down through the various subplanes of the mental plane, then onto the astral, and so forth until it becomes a mere idol. The differences there are between the idea and the thought form. Oftentimes we use the word loosely and we say, well, I have a bright idea, and we mean just that I have a new thought. But ideas are something different. They're much more powerful. They have a great creative thrust, and in fact, DK sometimes tells us they are beings themselves. All of us, if you really look at it, even the Logos himself is an idea. The universal Logos is a great idea, and from that great Logos emanates all these lesser projections, downward projections, which are ideas themselves. Each one of us is an idea in the mind of God, and there are ever higher series of gods until we reach the universal logos, and yet it's all one God. So in the first piece, Francis says, I've used the metaphor of the Stymphalian birds as Kama monastic thought forms. Now, we all want to learn how to think without Kama, desire-tinged thought. We want to think in the pure light of day, fertilized from the soul and Buddhic planes. So this is the challenge for Heracles in the Sagittarian labor. Control through self-mastery is the key here, and the kind of alignment you can achieve in Sagittarius allows you to do that. Interestingly, Heracles gained that control through a gift from Athena, who represents higher mind, of symbols, the kind of symbols you as in an orchestra that you would crash together, When I was a kid, I used to love to go to the orchestra waiting for the cymbal crashes. Okay, so producing a sound intolerable to the thought form making faculty, because it's a synthetic sound. It has all the vibrations, and no illusion unto itself can survive this sound which embraces the whole. Were I to lift the birds of Stymphalis 1 degree further towards the esoteric, Francis says, I might show Heracles with lips parted, his intoned sound actually forming the bow, the arrow, and the open passage that separates him from the mountain top. Okay, I think we get the idea here. Thought forms are taking on a certain luminosity, the color of the intuitive realm. No thought form in service to the lesser self, this is so important, can enter the holy place. So whatever we think, if it's of a personal nature and self-concerned, it's not going to contribute to the ashram's reservoir of useful thought. It doesn't add anything to the ashram. Only our selflessness in service adds to the ashram. Sagittarius in some ancient books is called the sound of silence. Well, not at first, They make a lot of noise at first, just like the Stymphalian birds. But later, there is a restraint of speech through the control of thought and a synthetic kind of vision which allows them to approach the mountaintop of initiation. I see the goal, I reach that goal, then I see another. And the Tibetan says, if I can just get this down here, what he said, something like, may the words of this final injunction to the disciple carry meaning to the heart and mind. So, this is a very inspiring sign. And during the month, during every month when a sign is prominent, we're supposed to use that sign to build quality content into our causal body. So although here in the northern hemisphere at least things are darkening, and up here in Finland the sun hardly rises at all in the northern latitudes, we turn our eyes and our inner eye towards the inner and higher worlds, and we seek to become inspired and eventually reach the monad. Number 6, Sagittarius is a 9, the 9 of completion. That's the completion of our journey. It is prominently the 6th-ray sign, the monad's on the 6th plane. And that arrow eventually passes all the way back to the original source which sent us forth in the early days when we decided to make this pilgrimage. And Sagittarius, of course, is also the sign of the pilgrim. Well, that, gives us some thought about this. In today's world, people need a vision which is true. We've got all kinds of visions that people are following, and these visions are really leading to illusions, either on the astral plane or on the mental plane, and people are sacrificing their lives to follow these illusions, which essentially lead nowhere. They're still in the sort of that area of life where you release many arrows and go in many directions. You don't quite know where you're going, but you think you're going to get there, and you are disappointed at the end. We need the ageless wisdom to present a true vision of reality so people can conserve their forces and one-pointedly pursue a real goal. And that will only happen when there is a dissipation of the glamour. Last night we did Spain too. He was talking about Spain, I think, and Spain is a Sagittarian country in the soul nature with the sixth ray. And its motto is, I disperse the clouds. Well, you can see exactly what's needed there. The glamour and the clouds have disappeared. The light and glory of the way is here. So these are solar angelic stanzas. I really would recommend that you go to Esoteric Psychology 2 and read the 7 stanzas about the solar angel from the old commentary, and it shows you how we can finally achieve illumination along 7 ray lines. Okay, well that'll be the beginning of our meditation then, and you know, the world is in a critical situation at the moment, and I'm just trusting that we will add a certain clarity of vision to the consciousness of humanity through our meditative efforts. So we will begin. Okay, Sagittarius solar fire meditation, and 7 days are involved, the days of preparation, detachment, and renunciation. That's what preparation is all about, and the 3 qualities: confidence, aspiration, and well, you know, we're just ending the day of aspiration, and we're beginning the 24 hours, you might say, of dedication. And then we'll enter actually in another 12 hours or so the day of safeguarding. 12 hours before, 12 hours after, receiving, holding whatever inspiration we gather, holding it in the silence, and so it can become a truly motivating force in our lives. And then for the 3 subsequent 24-hour periods, we register what happened, we have that astral sense of expectancy and a confirmed belief, which helps to manifest what we have contacted on the physical plane. Okay, friends, we begin. So, make sure you're in a comfortable position with poise and alertness, but still relaxation. And we begin withdrawing our consciousness from its preoccupation with the physical vehicle or the energy body, withdrawing from our usual desires and feelings for and against, and withdrawing pratyahara, withdrawing inwardly from the many movements of thoughts in the mind. These are the fields of our personality instrument. They are useful, but they are not to capture, captivate, enslave the consciousness. Sagittarius is one of the signs of freedom. It wants to be free of restraints. And we slowly transition or slip imaginatively into the world of soul light, illuminating the unity we feel with each other, and soul love, which unites us in magnetic harmony. And the sacrificial will of the soul, which wants to contribute something always to the world and is not preoccupied by personal concerns of the well-being of the personality. So we get the sense of being more a soul than the personality. Should always, in our meditation, try to carry that through the day, and then our attention won't be so much on what's happening in the physical, etheric, astral, and mental bodies, but they will be used as instruments to carry out what we're aware of in the higher realms. So somehow we're as if in the egoic lotus, in that world of light, love, and power, and as if centralized within the central fire of that lotus. It'll be a while before that really opens up, but we can use our imagination and we sense the group consciousness, the group soul, which unites us all. And we are one with the spiritually minded people of the world, the new group of world servers and the men and women of goodwill. We are in soul. We are one with them, in unity at least, in harmony. Space makes no difference. We are somehow together with these people who really are serving and really intending the good. We expand our conception towards the one soul of humanity. All human beings, they may be an incarnation, they may not be an incarnation, but they are one entity, one being with one consciousness. It's the simultaneous vision of that which is seen through billions of eyes and other senses. It's a registration that the entire human race is having simultaneously, and that's the registration of the one soul of humanity. Wherever. It's as if we can see through any pair of eyes anywhere. What any one sees or registers, the one soul of humanity is seeing or registering. So no one is excluded, no one is foreign, no one is out of the unity, fundamental unity. And we are all of those beings, if the truth were to be known and understood. So that great sense of unity is summed up in an ancient mantra on the second ray. we realize there being no my soul or thy soul, that naught is but me. Capital M. Naught is but the one I, which is working through all the units of the human kingdom, naught is but me. We want to really stabilize ourselves in this type of realization. So we would have to build the Antikarana and use it. To do that, our group, let's say, has a mental unit, a mind composed of all of our minds, and it is fed by the will of the group soul. So it builds up its intention, its power, through the will to initiate of the first ray, the will to unify of the second ray, the will to evolve of the third ray, the will to harmonize of the fourth ray, the will to act of the fifth ray, the will to cause of the sixth ray, and the will to expression of the seventh ray. We have all those forms of will in our group or in any group intending towards the higher worlds. We gather into that point of projection, which is our group mental unit. We gather all the energies of the group personality to build up our intent, our aspiration to throw ourselves, as it were, into the higher worlds. We imagine the bridge of light. For each one of us, it has two colors. It's almost like it comes out of the top of your head, and this is just visualization, but the reality is something other. But it has two colors, one of the soul, one of the personality. The red of first ray, indigo second ray, green third ray, yellow fourth ray. One of the fifth ray colors orange, sixth ray, one of the colors rose, seventh ray violet. So we each imaginatively see the dual strands, the two colors, and it's going to enter the world of the triad. It's going to first touch the abstract mind, and then the Buddhic realm of intuition, and then the realm of Atma, or spiritual will. Let us together project a living line of light across our strand of the multiply colored rainbow bridge of the group, and we'll use, for group purposes, the word of power of the second ray. I see the greatest light. And we'll think that inwardly as we sound the Om on a second ray note outwardly. So when you're oming, you're thinking, I see the greatest light. Oh. that greatest light is really the unfettered enlightenment of the monad in Shambhala, with which Sagittarius and its ray has a numerical affinity. The 6 is the monad descending, the 9 is the monad returning to home. Together they are the 15, which is the 6, the monadic plane. The 6th. So there's a great enlightenment that can pour forth in an impersonal way over all of us and through all of us. And we begin to realize we're not just persons, and we're not just souls on the higher mental plane. We are aspects through our monadic nature of Sanat Kumara, of the planetary logos. We are projections. So Sagittarian in a certain way. And the thrill of that higher life can pour through us. And as we rise through the antichironic projection, there is a return projection. The father runs forth to meet the returning prodigal son. If we have our antikarana in the process of building and in the process of use, we can somewhat stabilize ourselves in relation to the realms where the Masters focus, the triadal realms. At least we can be impressed. We won't stabilize there until after the 4th initiation, or at least after the 3rd, let us say, for the higher mind. But, we're being impressed via the antikarana we have generated by the presence of the Great White Brotherhood, the Lodge of Masters, the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. They are beings who focus in those realms. And we want to serve them. They are custodians of the plan. And some of them are registrants of the purpose. And so we express our solidarity with this brotherhood. The salutations are for that purpose. With gratitude, we expect to one day be as they are. But for now, we express our willingness to cooperate, and we recognize who they are and what they represent, and we salute, offer the salutations. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all Masters. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we most closely work, responding to their inspiration. Master Morya, Master Kutumi, Master DK. Salutations to the Master Morya, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram is most responsible for preparing the way for the reappearance of the Lord Maitreya, the present Christ. Salutations to the Master DK, the messenger of the masters who has given us the blue books and has trained us, or is training us along the path. Salutations to your own master, as you know him to be or conceive that he may be. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet. And preserving this point of tension, we raise our thought further to Shambhala, imaginatively of course, the center where the will of God is known. And with deepest reverence and in all humility, we attempt, identified as a group soul, to attune to the presence of Sanat Kumara standing in the center of Shambhala. Whatever little bit of that influence can come through to us, we attune to it. We ask that all disciples, all workers with the new group of world servers, all men and women of goodwill, be inspired by the purpose and the will which emanates from the great king of Shambhala. He himself an emanation of the planetary logos. And as a group we sound in silence, a long silent Om, imagining our group and the world servers and whoever can be imbued with this great energy to be imbued by this energy. So a long, silent, inward Om. May we learn to live responsive to divine purpose carried out through the plan and executed through as much of the spiritual will as we can access as a group and individually. The energies are available now, the growing energies of Sagittarius, carrying the 4th, 5th, and 6th rays, especially the 6th ray. And we will imaginatively use the guidance of Master DK, that great expert in ray and astrological and hierarchical energies, the energies of the creative hierarchies. His knowledge we will seek to be imbued by his understanding, and so we gather ourselves together in imagination, as if we who are working together now are simply one point. We are all gathered, having dropped all the various distinctions of the personality. We are light, love, and power, a point. And we are as if hovering above that golden path which leads to the heart of the indigo sun. We will follow that path as it shortens and shortens and shortens, and is absorbed into the deep indigo sun, where we imagine we meet the consciousness of Master DK. And we seek as a group to become, in a sense, an outpost for his consciousness, so that when we encounter these planetary and ray energies, we really understand them. We really absorb them and can express them. The very first encounter we will have is with the planets. Jupiter, the Esoteric ruler, ever-expanding horizons. The enthusiastic motivation to move beyond and through the limitations of our present ring past knot in consciousness and in energy-wielding ability. growing with Jupiter, we will encounter the energies of Earth, our own planet, the esoteric ruler, conveying the realization that our planetary sphere must be spiritually enlivened until it becomes outwardly the sacred planet it already is inwardly. We should always remember that Earth is inwardly a sacred planet. And we have to help manifest that inward sacredness outwardly. And we will encounter Mars, strangely the hierarchical ruler, not yet a sacred planet, but it gives us this zeal to redirect and elevate the tendency of all our lunar lords through the power of aspiration. It's a scientific method, aspiration. It leads to transmutation, and thence to transformation and transfiguration and translation. So we will encounter the planets, and supported by the consciousness of Master DK, we imagine present within our own consciousness through a process of infusion. We'll ponder on Jupiter first. We need it in relation to Sagittarius, giving us the power to extend our vision of truth and reality, and to expand our consciousness, to embrace an ever-widening ring past knot, an ever-greater horizon, more and more, wider and wider. The positivity of knowing we will always grow, having our group assurance that we can convey to others of the inevitable beneficial growth and the eventual fulfillment of wisdom, of love, of understanding, success, spiritual success looming ahead. And the growing sense of all-inclusive wholeness which Jupiter confers, a vision of that in Sagittarius, growth towards that wholeness. Until our ring past knot expands so that it is identical with ever increasing ring past knot, rings past knot. And one day embracing the entirety. Will be well beyond this solar system, but one day finding out we are more and more than we thought. The power to overcome limitation through inclusion. This is Jupiter. And the joy of that, the Jupiterian joy, the Sagittarian joy, of ever greater inclusion beyond the limitations under which we labored for so long. We surely need this energy in our groups, that Jupiterian stream coming into our group and groups and into humanity. Just feel our group here, our meditating group, imbued with this expansive energy. Embrace the whole. Include. See more and more. Be more and more. Embrace more and more. As that energy flows into our group and groups, we will sound the Om, feeling the infusion of the Jupiterian energy of inclusion. The promise of every positive vision will be realized, achieved under this influence. And then our own little becoming sacred planet, the Earth, as it relates to Sagittarius, it's the power of the Earth to redeem the etheric physical nature of both human beings and of our planetary globe. It has so much to do with the ethers, revitalizing these lesser and greater etheric physical vehicles in ways which disengage them from the moon, which will one day disappear. Disengage the etheric vehicles, that physical vehicle, from the retrogressive lunar tendencies. Till we are etherically independent of that congestion in space we call dense physical matter. It's a vitalization through the Earth, a planet of vitalization, a planet of Kundalini, Kundalinic vitalization. The logos of our planet is conveying influences which help us realize our capacity to tread a path, and all these paths taken together lead to the energetic glorification of our planet until it becomes a sacred planet, the path to sacredness, Earth and Sagittarius. That's why so many Sagittarian, they work often in the physical etheric field, vitalizing it, so as to elevate the quality of matter so that it can carry more of heaven. The Earth, a sacred heavenly temple in which spirit finds its embodiment in spiritually regenerated matter. And of course, we will have an etheric body filled with triangles rather than squares, as it is mostly now. sacred planets, which we are becoming, have an etheric body of triangles. So our earth influence can help us regenerate. Regenerate our lower vehicles, especially the dense physical. Earth is not so much connected with the dense physical, the moon is. Earth with the etheric body. And with the kundalinic force in the solar system. So we want to feel vitalized and have the power in our etheric nature to etherealize matter. And be increasingly free of it. It won't hold us down. We'll be able to ascend, as it were, with Sagittarius and the sixth ray having a lot to do with the so-called ascension initiation, the sixth. So as we sound the Om, we'll feel this vitalization coming into our individual and group etheric bodies and into the etheric body of all humanity, giving us that positivity to the negative lunar influences which would hold us in dense matter. So let's feel that flow into our groups and be ready for our use. The energizing of the etheric body of the earth to propel it towards sacredness through the reception in that etheric body of ever higher energies. And finally, we encounter another energy available now. It is the energy of Mars. It's the hierarchical ruler. It's going to stimulate our aspiration. It has a strong sixth ray, Mars. Going to stimulate our aspiration until aspiration becomes transmutation and spiritual elevation. We're going to use the higher part of Mars, not the part that stimulates desire for dense physical forms. Mars stimulating the quest, driving that quest for ever new experiences of a reality lying beyond the present ring pass not of consciousness, through the, I've called it elevatory immolation of the lunar nature. It burns, the burning ground. And through the burning there's a raising, an elevation. We have to be willing, before the first three initiations, to step upon the burning ground. Certainly Sagittarius is an initiatory sign. DK connects it with initiations 1 and 2, but it certainly leads towards 3 as well. So we realize the potency of the higher Mars, the hierarchical Mars, eventually impelling towards the treading of the way of higher evolution, which leads us as the outward bound monad to our truer home in distant constellations, which form the chakras of that great being we call the one about whom naught may be said. Mars gets all this started. It won't let us rest. It won't let us give in to inertia. It drives us forward on a quest, an aspiration. When Mars has turned upward, as it were, it's the beginning of all this. If we're going to reach the mountain, we have to have that aspiring compulsion to do so. So may we all be filled with that fire of aspiration. Everywhere in the Agni Yoga books, Master Morya says, strive fierily. Morya Remembrance Day is on the 24th of March, Aries, Mars. Strive fierily. That will lift our consciousness into the realms where we are supposed to learn to focus. So into the group may aspiration come. Real aspiration, which does not rest back upon any achievement, but drives towards ever new achievements. And we'll sound a note. I'll sound the red note, C, for Mars. And we'll imagine the aspiration flowing into our group in groups, driving us upward towards achievement. If we see a vision, we have to have the power to get there. We have to have the vitality to get there. It will always expand our ring past not our horizon. And thus we see how Jupiter, Earth, and Mars all cooperate in the achieving of higher spiritual attainments. The Antikarana will lead away from Earth toward Venus, and eventually it will lead towards the sun itself, our sun, the great heart of love wisdom, a heart center in the local cosmic logos. We are totally infused by this logos, this God of love wisdom, pouring through all the planets, through Shambhala, through every monad in Shambhala, through every soul in hierarchy, through every personality in humanity. The love wisdom pours through. So let's imagine the great solar logos and one of his vehicles, the sun, the blazing sun, infusing us all with this power of love wisdom. We're in the great indigo blue of the blue logos. Imagine the shining sun, or maybe some of you are seeing it. What a great destiny we all have as that which finds its home within the sun, that is our monad, returns at some point to the sun before later adventures. Evolution is a great adventure that's so Sagittarian, and the sun is monadically our source for this solar system at least. But of course the source is farther and farther and farther. The sun always shines whether we see it or not, and we somehow try to realize the presence of the great solar God. Stimulating our heart, all of our heart centers, in the head, the egoic lotus, the monad itself. Stimulated by the sun, always. We should remember that. And so, encountering the planets, imaginatively encountering the great God of love, wisdom, our God is a consuming fire, the consuming fire of love, we imagine that quite beautiful constellation, Sagittarius. It's very bright, really. A beam, its light is a beam of directed, focused light. In this, the point of light becomes the beam, revealing a greater light ahead and illumining the way to the center of the light. In that light I shall see light. We can follow the beam. That's what we do later when we're on the way of higher evolution. We follow the beam. And that beam will lead into ever more lighted worlds. We open ourselves to the feel of the energy quality of Sagittarius. Relating profoundly to the fourth ray, humanity and all of its struggles, the fifth ray of discovery, and the sixth ray of devotion and idealism. The power to stay on the path until you achieve the sixth ray, Sagittarius. But that constellation, visible in the north during the winter time particularly, and maybe in the southern hemisphere more in the summertime. And we will, in silence, go ahead with the mantra. Apply it to yourself, to your groups, to humanity. I see the goal. I reach that goal, and then I see another. What for you is the goal? What for your groups, group or groups, is the goal? What is the goal for humanity? What is the goal for the planet? And on it goes. I see the goal. I reach that goal, and then I see another. I see the goal. I reach that goal, and then I see another. I see the goal. I reach that goal. And then I see another. Whatever may be the goal for you. To mobilize all energies and forces and the power of vision to take you on the path and your group on the path to the realization of that goal, achieved, assimilated, a new objective will appear. But we have to get moving. Make progress. Do the thing we have been thinking about doing but not doing. So as we move towards the full moon, keep this mantra in your mind. Full moon is still about 25 hours away, something like that. Build up your aspiration, build up your inspiration. Your aspiration will allow you to receive the inspiration. Keep moving, hand in hand with your brother and your sister towards the goal. And then the door opens wide, we're told. Try to go through it yourself, it's too narrow. Hold the hand of a brother or sister, you can pass through. The door widens. I see the goal. I reach that goal, and then I see another. We are much energized by great sources, which are sending their arrows of emanated energy into the lower worlds. From the one about whom naught may be said, our local super cosmic logos, who has constellations for chakras, through that part of the heart and the head center which is ruled by Sagittarius, and then in a way very directly into our local cosmic logos, which has a connection with I think a solar plexus center in the supercosmic deity. Then into our sun, which occupies a heart center position within the cosmic logos. Thence to the planets, Jupiter, our Earth, Mars, and into every monad in Shambhala, every soul in hierarchy, every personality in humanity. At the Ajna center will be stimulated a very strong later sixth ray center to see the vision, the solar plexus, of course, but maybe the Ajna center finally, so we really know where we're going together. And knowing where we're going, we can step forward with strength, we can stride with certainty. We don't have to meander along the path, we will go deliberately and with speed. I see the goal. I reach that goal. And then I see another. Together we travel. And we know how much humanity is lacking the vision. And the visions which it does follow are often so destructive, so illusory, untrue. Let us, imbued now in this alignment with the Sagittarian energy and all the ray and planetary energies which accompany it, see the problem-stressed humanity, some area of human problems where the vision of Sagittarius, that goal orientation, that sense through faith of already seeing what must be accomplished, focus on an area there which you think needs attention, and which the infusion of Sagittarian energy would aid and assist. And as you might make up a little mantra, as you feel the energy coming in, you see the changes taking place. use the Om, and as you sound the Om, we sound it together. Let's do it 3 times. We'll see the important changes taking place through the infusion of Sagittarian energy into this troubled area which you have selected for the infusion, for improvement. So you visualize the improvement as you sound the Om. Because whatever energies we may receive, we want to apply them through thought, through energy direction, to the amelioration, to the improvement of the human condition, and of course inevitably the condition of the subhuman kingdoms as well. Then we will close our meditation by sounding the great invocation, that mantram of light and power held in Shambhala until the Christ directed his face towards humanity and said, I will reappear. So together in our group spirit and united with the New Group of World Servers and all the men and women of goodwill, and ultimately with all humanity and all kingdoms of nature, directing all forward in our imagination towards sacredness, the sacredness of our planet, we sound the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, in just another 24 hours or so, a little more, the full moon, we have our full moon service meditation broadcast starting at 9 p.m. GMT tomorrow night, the 25th. Tuya will lead that, and I've given you in your chat box the link for that. You should have received it anyway, but you can go, I think, well, if you don't have it, you can go to the Morya Federation website. I think it should be there. We'll find out. It'll be a broadcast and lead us right into the exact moment of the Sagittarian full moon. So do use the mantra. Do intensify your vision. Do see what it really is you aspire to and what your group aspires to and how you can move along that path with all due deliberate speed, as Mary Bailey used to say. Just keep moving towards the goal. Okay, thank you very much for your presence tonight, this morning, whatever it is for you. And let's all move forward towards the inspiration of the Sagittarian full moon. Many blessings. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.